Welcome to the Real Marriage Talk podcast with Christopher and Christy Monroe.
On this podcast, we talk about real life, we share our real marriage, and we have real talk.
So make sure to subscribe to this channel and to turn on notifications so that you know when the latest episode drops.
And share this video with your friends, your family, and your spouse. This is Real Marriage Talk.
Hi, and welcome to the Real Marriage Talk podcast. On this podcast, we talk about real life, real marriage, real problems, real solutions, and all things concerning marriage. My name is Christopher Monroe, and this with me is my beautiful wife, Christy.
Hey!
And on this episode, this is our very first episode of this podcast, so we want to thank you guys for taking the time to come along this journey with us. And in this episode, what we want to do is just give you a chance to get to know who we are. So we are titling this one, Meet the Monroes. And we just want to tell you a little bit about ourselves, our story, and how we met. Just so you can know a little bit about us before you allow us to speak into your life.
Right.
And so we met in
2003.
I had just moved to Kentucky. Even though I was born in Kentucky, my family, when I was about 4, moved to Indianapolis, and I grew up in Indianapolis. And it was a couple of years after I graduated high school that we moved back down to Kentucky. My parents' family's from here. My dad had a successful concrete business in Indianapolis. And my oldest brother, who lives here in Kentucky, had talked him into bringing that business to Kentucky. And I was in a position where if they left, I was about to lose my house. I had already lost my car, and I just lost my job. So things were not looking good for me to stay in Indianapolis on my own. So I reluctantly moved to Kentucky with my parents. And for the first few weeks, I would drive back every Friday night after work. I would just get in my car and I would head back to Indianapolis, and I would spend the weekend with my friends. And there came a time where I was just too tired. I don't remember what the reason was. I just decided I was not going to Indianapolis this weekend. And my mom had a rule that if you stayed with her, you had to go to church. I got out of that rule most of the time because I went to Indianapolis. But this time, since I was living in her house, I had to go to church. So I went to church with my parents on this Sunday morning. And who was sitting in front of me other than...
It was me. And it's a kind of crazy situation because we was not attending this church. Me and my family was not attending this church at that moment. We was actually going to another church. And it just was out of the blue. That Sunday morning, I had decided, hey, I think I'm going to go to church with my grandparents today. That was like the best decision that I ever made, because while I'm sitting there, here comes in this nice looking, tall, redheaded guy in a suit. And suits was really popular back in the day like that. He don't wear them now today, but it really caught my eye to see him. And it was just the best thing that I could have done was go to church that day, because there is where our story started.
Yeah. And so I went back to church with my parents that night because I was looking to see if somebody would happen to be there. And she wasn't. And so I just sat there all alone. And we did end up going to eat after church at Denny's. And I guess it was her grandparents that called her and told her that, hey, that guy from Indianapolis came back to church tonight. And so as we're sitting there in Denny's, here she comes walking in. And
it's funny because I told somebody that day, that Sunday morning, that, and I said it jokingly, that I was going to marry this guy. And I just said that. And I think that's where it all started that night at Denny's, because I knew then, I said it again, I'm pretty sure, that I'm going to marry this guy. And here we are, 17 years later. We'll be married 17 years in June.
Yeah.
Together for 18 years. And so that's where it all began for us. Just a little bit about that. We started dating what day?
Well, it was
It was a few weeks after that.
So we went on our first date And what happened is I was on a phone call with a buddy of mine from Indianapolis, and I was telling him, I said, there's this girl that I've met at church, and I said, I'd like to ask her out. Don't know what she would say, and everything. So he told me, he's like, listen, he's like, hang up right now. He said, call her, ask her to go out on a date, and then call me back and tell me how it goes. And so I did. I hung the phone up, and I called her and asked her if we wanted to go out and see a movie and get a bite to eat, and she said yes. And so
Did you have to talk it out like you normally do?
yes, I had to talk it out.
Before he makes a phone call, he has to talk it out. And
I'm not as bad now as I once was, but
so
I used to be.
I
Really
would
bad.
I would think that you'd have been so nervous to call me.
It was
for the first
probably a
time.
good 10 minutes in between I got off the phone before I ever made the call to her. And so we did. We went to eat. We went and saw a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went and got a bite to eat at Steak and Shake.
Yes.
And
good
because
old
we're
Steak
so
and Shake.
fancy.
We are not fancy people. We like nice restaurants, but Steak and Shake
Which is one of my
is
favorite
just good.
restaurants.
And here's the funny thing about our first date is he stuck a cheese fry up his nose on an accident.
Not on purpose. And I really don't know how it happened. And I don't know if you could. I don't know.
Probably would never be able to do it again.
And so it's just one of those things that we have to look back on. And then it was,
laugh, yes.
a few weeks later, we saw each other. Of course, we saw each other at church and a couple other things. And it was on June 21st in 2003 that we officially started dating,
Mm-hmm.
and made a official relationship status, I guess you would say. And
Oh yeah.
and so, and it was very quickly after that we began to work in ministry. Ministry is something that's very much a part of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, we began to lead the youth group together. And so it was about 6 months into it. It was 6 months exactly. It was December 21st in 2003 that I decided that I was going to propose. And the thing about it is that, like, I wanted some grand gesture. I wanted everything to go just right because I'm that kind of guy. And but I also wanted I also wanted to be on a special day. That was 6 months into it. And so I was talking to my mom before, it was on a Sunday, even before church on that Sunday, and she said, just do it. If that's what you want to do, just do it. And so I scramble around and I go buy a ring, and in between church services.
It was shocking. It was a shocking thing because, like, we had a youth house, like, for where we was going to church. We had this little house that sat next door.
The crib, we called it.
It was called the crib. And so Christopher asks me that Sunday night, like, you want to go over, walk over here? And I'm like, sure. And we go, and he's just so sweet about it. And took me in this house all by ourselves, nobody around to see. And it was really special, I think, just the two of us in that moment. He got down on his knee and he asked me to be his wife. And of course I said yes. I mean, it was all like part of God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said it from the very first day I met him that I was going to marry this man. And so, of course, there started our journey on to our wedding day.
Yeah. And almost 6 months later, we were married. It was actually, it had been 1 year from the day that we started dating. Let's see. We got married on June 19th, and if we had waited till Monday to get married, it'd been exactly 1 year. But we didn't think we'd want to get married on a Monday, so.
Right. And so, 17 years have passed.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been married for 17 years in June, together for 18 years.
Yeah. And during this time, there's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of heartbreak. There has been a lot of good times. And then you throw the children in there, and there's been a lot of, I don't know, crazy moments.
Oh, yeah.
Late nights, early mornings,
Mm-hmm.
everything in between. There's been times when we have been doing well financially. There's been times that we have struggled financially.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that one can experience in life, I feel like we have been through in some way,
yes,
in shape or fashion. And we just want to
just
share
fun.
that with you guys.
Yes.
Some of the things that we have learned along the way that's helped us get through some really hard moments. some things that's helped us just to be able to learn how to celebrate the really good moments. And we just want to share that with you guys.
Yeah, and we want y'all to know that marriage is a journey, and we have definitely been on a journey the last 17 years. And we are so excited to share these things with all of you all. Well, like he said, our struggles, our hard times, our good times. We've had so many of each, and we have learned so much through our marriage that we want to just share those things with you all here.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we invite you guys to come along this journey with us, and
yes,
and we are going to put some information in the description in the video below that you guys can send us your questions, send us your concerns, send us topics that you'd like us to discuss and talk about, and we will do that. We're going to we have a page on Facebook at Real Marriage Talk, so go over and find us there. The link will be below. But go over and connect with us on that Facebook page so that we can get to know you guys a little bit better, and we can interact a little bit more. You can send us messages, and we'd like to get to chatting with you and just see what's going on in your guys' life so that we can be able to speak into that as well.
And like we was just sitting here talking earlier, we're not counselors.
Mm-mm.
We are not marriage counselors. We're not, therapists. So we're just taking what we've learned and want to give that to you all. And hopefully it will help people who are struggling in their marriages or in seasons of their marriage where they're not really sure what to do. And so we are just wanting to be an encouragement and just share our life with y'all. And what else you want to say?
Well, that's about it for this episode. This episode's a little short.
Yeah, it's just a meet the crazy
will probably
Monroes.
be happening from here on out. But we just wanted to just kind of do a quick introduction with you guys, just so you guys get to know who we are just a little bit and hear a little bit of our story as we just open ourselves up to you, and as we prepare to open ourselves up to you a lot during the course of this podcast.
Right.
And so go ahead and whatever method that you're listening to this on, watching this on, go ahead and subscribe to it. Make sure you turn on notifications so that you know that when the latest episode will drop. And so
yes. And so that's really all we have for you all today.
Yeah. So we will see you guys next time
Yes.
on the Real Marriage Talk podcast.
Thank y'all.
All right. See you later.
Bye.